You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today. But before we do, gotta thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. And let's get into today's episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode, bringing you a cycling episode today. I sat with Bobby, actually. What day is it today? It's it's the day this is going out. We're not recording on that day, but it's Sunday today. I recorded with Bobby on Friday. So we had a good chat about cycling as well. So this will be the second cycling episode related maybe this week or within the next couple of episodes. But my guest today is Alyssa Lutz, I guess from Bike Club OKC.
That's
right now.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive into everything you do and love about cycling in Oklahoma City and Oklahoma in general.
Excellent.
So I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I dive right into it. When people meet you for the first time and they see you riding a bike, and I think female cycling is growing in Oklahoma, right? You've got
certainly
Chad, right, down at Wheeler doing, the women's thing as well as the men's crit races now, and I've got some friends in that. My wife's a runner, but she does have a bike, and we're actually getting it serviced right now, so maybe we'll see her on a bike. I think she's got enough friends around her that I would love to see her get on her bike more, because she's probably ridden it 6 times since she's bought it.
We'd love to welcome her.
Which is slightly annoying because it costs more than my bike. But you know how that goes.
I do know how that is.
So tell me what kind of, right now, tell me what the current state of female cycling is in Oklahoma City, and not just, obviously, people think female cycling, they think competitive, right?
Right.
Tell me about, recreational, the community, and how that's evolved.
I can just kind of speak to when I first started sort of cycling again, if you will. It was like 2015, and I just kind of rode my bike back and forth to my I was a personal trainer at the time, rode my bike back and forth to the gym, teaching fitness classes, etc. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's go for a bike ride." And I was like, "Well, I just kind of commute on my bike." And I did it, and I just remembered instantly, why did I ever stop this? This is just the most soul-feeding thing. And I just rode with a small group of friends. Shortly after that, I joined this thing called Strava. And some other friends started seeing me riding and said, "Hey, you need to meet up with this group of ladies." And they were strong females and triathletes, most of them. And I was getting into off-road riding, mountain biking at that time. The community of women was here and there, but now, there are Oklahoma City women's cycling group that's non-team specific. All women are welcome. And a lot of shops, like you mentioned, Chad Hodges, he's just a solid dude. And really supportive and encouraging of women in cycling, making sure that there's a payout, for those women in the crits and in the any kind of cycling series he does. So Girls Gone Gravel is a big movement, getting more women. And when I rode, I wasn't really race ready this year, but when I rode Mid-South, it just made my heart feel so happy to see so many women and so much diversity on gravel bikes, amputees, para-athletes, just fit people, and people you would least expect to be on a bike. Marley Blonsky was just amazing, and everyone from Payson, the top females to Marley, DFL, the Lanterne Rouge of Mid-South. So I love seeing this diversity, and it is not all about being a champion on top of the podium. It's community. It's mental wellness and physical wellness and time away from electronics and so many other things. So that's very long-winded.
No, that's great. It's one of the things that, and I told Bobby this too, just the feeling of being outside, right, in the countryside. And that's, it doesn't matter if you're riding down the cycle paths from Wheeler all the way to, my general route. I live kind of northwest Oklahoma City area, so I kind of go from, Lake Overholser down to Wheeler Park, right, and back. And it's just such great, thanks to Oklahoma City for having great cycle paths. Yeah. But if you can get out into the countryside, you don't have to be that far in the country to be like, it's so peaceful. It is awesome. How was your Mid-South experience?
Pretty awesome. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't go into this race ready necessarily. I hadn't really been training for that distance or anything. I had my second ACL reconstruction on my right leg. I'm a week ahead of my surgery last year, so it's kind of funny to be able to compare where I was last year and this year, and I still have a long way to go in terms of rehab for this, but just the fact that I got in and it was a beautiful day. There's no way I could have, I just had to say yes. I knew all along coming up to it, if this is sloppy, muddy, mucky, I've been there plenty of times, and I don't need to have one more of those harrowing experiences. But it was great. And like I said, I think what I loved so much is seeing the diversity of people, all people on bikes,
Yeah. So you did the 100?
Yes, I did the 100.
Yeah.
And actually, I finished it a sub 7 hours, which for me, I think in this stage, kind of still rehabbing my leg and being somewhat timid a little bit, especially with the downhills in a big crowd. I'm not so worried about myself, but I'm worried about that person that's in front of me. If they go down, I have to have an exit strategy quickly. Yeah,
that's the tough part, right? If one goes down at the front, likely everyone's going down.
Yeah.
Because they just don't see it coming, and then that's pain.
Yeah.
That's crashing, and that's a lot of painful stuff. I went back up actually. I was there Friday for the run, and then I went back up on Saturday because I was showing houses in Stillwater, day jobs, real estate. So I was showing houses in Guthrie, and I got done around like lunchtime. And I was like looking at Instagram and stories, and I'm like, maybe I'll go up for late lunch. Maybe I can get there for the end of the race. And I got there just after the winners crossed the finish line, and then just kind of hung out for an hour and had lunch. I was like, when would I ever drive to Stillwater for any other reason other than maybe for a podcast or just, I know Guthrie's not super far away, but it's far enough.
Right.
So, I was like, I just want to be around it.
Yeah. It is such a cool vibe. And I said, when I finished this year, if I don't race it next year or ride it or get in, I'm going. Because wow, Bobby is just making this such an event, and so if I don't enter to compete or participate next year, I'm either going to volunteer or I'm just going to go. Because it's just something, I got to be part of that.
Yeah, even if you're like, I might just buy a Jeep and drive right around the course and help out. Shout out to the Oklahoma Jeep Club or whoever it is that's out there saving people. So let's go back then. Tell me about kind of where cycling starts for you and just your general story within the sport and athletics and fitness in general. Are you Oklahoma born and raised? Does it start here or does it show up after?
I mean, for the most part, I was born in Minnesota.
Okay.
I remember it being very cold, and my family moved to Oklahoma City, and I'm one of 6 kids, 4 brothers, and the youngest is a girl. So I think my mom mentioned there was a time where it was just I went from dolls and dresses to, if you can't beat them, join them. And that was no more. And so it was, digging in ponds and going to my granddad's ranch or my granddad's farm and just saddling up a couple of horses and going out and riding and just whatever, fishing and that sort of thing. I was a competitive swimmer growing up. And had a really, successful in terms of an Oklahoma swimmer, I think. I had several records and stuff like that stayed until my younger sister came along and beat all of them.
That's not a bad thing, I guess, to keep it in the family, but still.
Yeah. And had a scholarship to go swim in college, but at that time, my parents let me make the decision that I was burned out. And I think in hindsight, I wish I would have done it because I saw my younger siblings take their scholarships and go. And when you transfer from high school to college, it's a whole different ballgame. It's, you really have a big set of peers. But after college, getting a bachelor's of science in education, taught school for a few years, and then took time off from teaching school to have 2 amazing kiddos. My son Ricky's works for the AG's office, and then my daughter Summer, she's the sweetest girl ever, manages a store in the mall, Penn Square Mall. And so I kind of started dabbling in some triathlon. I did the Red Bud run one year and was like running up that 5th mile hill on Larchmont and thinking, God, if I was in a pool, I'd be, whatever. Go back to my roots. And this guy goes, oh, you're a swimmer. You doing that triathlon next weekend? I go, sure I am.
Yeah, I am now.
Yeah. And so I showed up and I think I won that race. And I was like, then I went to do another one. These are just sprint at Weatherford. And I think I set the course record and I was like, well, this is a lot of fun. I think I'll keep doing it, So I spent a few years doing some sprint and Olympic distance road triathlons and ended that kind of phase with Escape from Alcatraz, which was really spectacular to be able to do and finish. And then just kind of was like, I think I'm kind of just going to settle into my fitness career, if you will. I kind of worked part-time with that, personal training, fitness classes, etc., nutrition counseling and wellness, while my kids were growing up. And I'm fortunate to have a house with a walkout basement, so I was able to have my gym in my house. My kids are upstairs. I'm like, don't come down unless it's an emergency. But then, 15 years of just kind of a break, really, from any kind of competition of any sort. And then I got back on the bike and got connected with these triathlete girls. And then a buddy of mine that said, why don't you try mountain biking? I'm like, why don't you show me how crazy you are? So I started mountain biking a little bit, walking these ridiculous, how would you ride a bike over that bump that's 3 inches high? And then the next, I kind of got this groove, and it was just this thing that was like, if you've ever heard the term church in the woods or whatever, it was just like, this was almost like a quiet, there's no cars, you might see deer and squirrels and armadillo and such, but being in a single track trail, it's just, it's just that meditative thing. And so, that hooked me in mountain biking especially, which is my favorite thing. And then I love gravel riding. I like, road cycling still, just all of that. And then that took me into competitive arena again with triathlon, Xterra. And that was a lot of fun and had a lot of success with that. So
yeah, it's amazing. Like there's a lot of stories that are similar to yourselves, right? You've got guys and girls, or out there that yes, they were athletic growing up. They kind of got burned out. They did the college thing, have a family, and once the kids are sort of old enough, they get that. You just like someone dangles the carrot in front of you,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, I get to be who I used to be. I get to get that feeling again. And then when you win, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
it's on now, right? Like
Yeah.
it's game on from there.
And I don't think I ever went back into triathlon and I raced mountain bikes, the State of Oklahoma Mountain Biking Series and the USA Triathlon, Xterra Triathlon Series. So I was in Colorado, pre-riding, come back, Austin pre-riding, come back, Austin racing, come back, St. Louis race, come back, Colorado race, come back. I look back on that and think, how did I manage all of that? Plus I'd be, back in Oklahoma. Okay, now I'm doing a mountain bike race and I got to follow up with a run afterwards. It was really, for the time, it was important and it was so meaningful. And to end that year in 2018 winning a national championship in off-road triathlon and getting a national championship jersey was something I never dreamt that could be possible. And then going to world championships was mixed emotions, bitter, it was a great opportunity, but the course was horrible. So the end performance of my race was not what I wanted, but the experience of being able to go to world championships was pretty amazing. So
where was that world championship that you won? Where was that?
National championships was in Waco, Texas.
Okay.
And
you said off-road triathlon.
Yeah, off-road. Okay. So that's a mile swim, either in ocean, river, lake, followed by a 20-mile mountain bike race, continuing, and then a 10K trail run. And that Waco race was interesting in a way because I had pre-ridden that course quite a few times and I felt comfortable with it and I knew where the climbs were and I knew where the kind of sketchy parts were, technical parts. It was a hot day. It was June 9th and it was hot. And the water, when you first get into triathlon, usually the water's like, ooh, yeah. It's kind of, you stepped into that water that day and it was just like, I didn't even get a chill. So the temps, I think, topped at 102 that day. But being in Oklahoma, we were used to the humidity and heat. The girls from Colorado, Seattle, Washington were destroyed by the heat and the humidity. And then the girls from Florida don't have that kind of, they're not used, it's flat. So they're not used to the climbing. So it was just kind of an interesting recipe that, was right for me at the time.
Well, what goes through your mind during those races then? I know it's something that like all endurance athletes kind of understand, but people who don't do endurance sports, which is probably 90% of the people listening, maybe more than that. What's kind of going through your mind when you're doing that race? And I know it's off-road, right? So It's a lot different. It's a lot, when you think of a traditional triathlon, right? It's like 2-mile swim, and the Olympic ones is 2-mile swim. Was it 140 something bike, right? And then a marathon.
Yeah.
Is that right? Or 112 bike in a marathon.
Exactly.
144 something total miles, which is chaos. But obviously, even though yours is shorter, it's still not easy.
No.
So what's going through your mind during kind of races like that?
I think back to my competitive swimming training days and things like that, and it's a big math game. I'm doing a set of 4 500s. Okay, that's how many 20 links per 500, and then I'm gonna finish. I'll be at the 4th way finish. So you're kind of calculating that kind of thing. But also, I think I always have a song in my head, and it's just like I'll find a song that's really inspiring to me that day, and it just is on repeat through my head. But certainly during the bike, it's like, okay, you got to be safe. This is important, and you're hoping that your equipment doesn't fail or you don't have a mechanical or anything. But because in mountain biking, there's more opportunity for that. And you're right on that. Like a mile of mountain biking versus a mile of road, totally different, But, and then I think when you finish the swim, it's like, okay, onto the bike, Then when you finish the bike, okay, it's just a 10K run. Oh my gosh, it's just a 10K run, but yeah, it's just the feeling of being out there. You've done the work, let's do this,
Yeah, and I guess coming from, swimming I mean, there's ways to put your headphones in when you're running and you're on a bike, right? Whereas swimming, you are in your own head the whole time.
Exactly.
You know?
You're in your own head.
A lot of early mornings and late nights being in the pool, right?
100%. Yes.
That definitely helps out with the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, right?
Yes.
Because in those endurance sports, you have that doubt creep in, we've all probably kind of not finished a race and thought, well, people listening might have. I definitely have quit, and I felt so bad the next day. And I'm like, why didn't you just keep going? But at the time, it's like, no, there's a comfy bed waiting for you.
Yes.
Right? Like there's a beer waiting for you or something, a double cheeseburger or whatever it is at the finish line.
Yeah.
But you can get there now if you quit, which is, that can translate into all parts of life and work and all that stuff. But so after winning, this national championship, then you qualify, I guess, for world championships, right? Where was world championship?
Maui.
Oh, that doesn't suck, does it?
It did not stink. The course was horrible, but Maui in general, it was okay. Yeah.
And is it same distance as well? Just obviously, just
ocean swim. So we had a lot of turbulence that popped up the morning of the race, and it was when the women's wave went out. It's an M course, so you go out, back to the beach, run 200 yards, out and back.
Okay.
By the time I went out and was coming back in, the surf had gone from maybe a 1 to 2 foot to about a 10 to 12 foot.
Wow.
And people were I got slammed to the ground, thought did I hurt my back? My cap, my goggles are off. It was just very violent.
Yeah.
I think a couple of people came out with broken bones from the swim.
Yeah.
And it was pretty terrifying for some people that haven't been in the water that much,
right.
And ocean water in particular, and to be slammed and held to the ground, and come up and be disoriented is a really frightening thing. So the swim was and the bike course was super muddy. The run course was slippery. It was like peanut butter. But other than that, it was pretty fantastic being in Maui.
Yeah. So did you make a vacation of it? Like, did you stay longer after?
I stayed for like 2 weeks. Yeah. Or 10 days or something.
I'm making it out here.
Yeah.
I'm staying and enjoying my time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did the kids come with you?
No, it was just a solo thing. At the time I was racing for a national women's team.
Okay.
And so one of my teammates and I both qualified, and so we went out there and kind of just spent the time out there.
And that you said that was in 2018?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can't imagine that being a bad experience, right? Other than obviously, the ocean part and the swimming part, but being that your strongest side, growing up with a swimming background, then, and even if you saying it's bad, I can't remember, can't imagine what the others who are like, I just kind of, I can swim and that's about it. Like, if I get in the pool, I would drown. That's, there's a friend of mine back home. I'm from Wales in the UK originally, and there's a friend of mine who kind of got into the endurance sports probably since COVID. And he qualified, but he couldn't go because I think he qualified for there's one in Utah, and he does like traditional triathlon stuff. And he's flying.
Wow.
And just I think he kind of came on the scene. We have quite a big race in Wales, and he around all these pros, and they're like, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Yeah,
he's like not, he's like he works in construction.
Yeah,
but he's just like very, very talented. And he was supposed to go to Utah, I think, this year, but I guess his world championship in Utah he qualified for, but he's injured, I think, at the moment, and then that would have got him in. He would definitely get to the big one in Kona, I think it is. I hope he gets there because I would definitely. I have an excuse to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, no kidding.
So during that time, then you're racing on a team. Like this is like legit at that time. Like this is something that you're really focused on. You're dialing in your nutrition, fully prepped, and this is my job, I guess, right?
Yeah, I had a coach and everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like a training plan, coach, and I was still, doing my. Ryan Ellis was my coach. At the time I was kind of doing my personal training and kind of coaching in a way of like the strength training aspect of athletes. But a lot of my clients were everything from high school students who wanted to improve their athletic performance or just be physically in shape or whatever, all the way to senior citizens who wanted to just maintain the ability to hike and bike and that sort of thing. And then definitely some athletes who are really concentrated and are focused on a competitive part of it. So
were you tied to a local gym here doing that stuff, or was it more personal?
Yeah, it was my gym.
In the basement?
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's perfect.
And I also kind of, after so much time in my basement with my gym, and then my kids kind of were like, hey, can we have the game room back and that sort of thing? And I ended up hopping over I trained at Chesapeake for some time, and then American Energy Partners when that was open, in a small community gym over off of Britain Road. So, I just kind of bounced around to, I'd be at one place for a few years and then maybe move to another. Yeah. So,
do you still do that stuff now?
I don't.
Do you miss it?
I do miss it. I really do miss it. I had I don't know if I should say near death. I mean, it was an accident that could have taken my life. Or
on the bike?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was after national championship win, June of 2018, state championship mountain bike series win, regional triathlon championship win, world championship participation. I went into 2019, did Mid-South that year, and then because I had like an overuse injury from running, and I thought, okay, I'm going to stay off running for a while, let this tendinosis kind of like settle in, and I'll just ride bike, So I started trying gravel, and Mid-South was my first gravel ride ever. And then I went on to do gravel national championships that year and won that. So I got another national championship jersey, which was, yay, I really like this stuff. But then I did mountain bike marathon national championships, and I got fourth in that. And I was like, I'm coming back next year for a top 3 podium. But a week after that was when I had this major accident. Yeah. And it took everything. Everything was gone. Everything was gone in a day. I mean, the next day, I didn't realize it because I think I still had a pretty good attitude. I don't really remember. I was unconscious after the accident for several minutes, and I don't remember the accident or the ambulance ride. My first memory is them putting the chest tube into me, which was so painful because they're just slicing your skin and shoving this tube into your lung that's collapsed. And holy cow, that was my first memory. And it was a core memory and vivid because it was so painful. Yeah. So, in hindsight, I mean, that was it. Personal training was gone. Coaching was gone. Racing was gone. I was living on disability, which is, let me tell you, nobody is getting rich off of that, you know. So that was 2 years of recovery.
Wow. Yeah. Do you mind talking about it?
Yeah, no.
So was it like a mountain bike fall, or was it like I got hit by a car?
It was Ride Your Bike Week and Ride Your Bike Day. Yeah. And I was working at that time for a gym, and they had kind of a contest to see nationally which gym was going to have the best Ride Your Bike to Work day. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we're going to take the train to Ardmore, and we're going to ride back 100 miles to the gym. That's our ride to work day, and we're going to slam this. So on the way back, we encountered some construction, and one of the anchors that was in this bridge, well, I guess more than one of them, but was not secured and patched properly. And I hit it and lost control of my bike. And that was it.
Were you like 20 mile an hour plus at this point?
We were
flying?
Averaging like 25 miles an hour at that time coming back. So I think we were probably, and people think, oh my gosh, 25 miles an hour. Well, a race car driver drives at extraordinary speeds because they're trained and they're used to it, So 25 miles an hour on a bike is not like for someone who rides and has ridden 40 and 30 and 50 almost miles an hour. 25 is comfortable. So, but when you hit something and lose control and you have you have a helmet and that's it. So I ended up with a broken clavicle, scapula, and 7 broken ribs, which was like a partial flail chest, and they called that injury in my shoulder a flail shoulder because the entire superior suspensory system was broken, and a traumatic brain injury. So that was the pain after that was so significant from the ribs and the scapula, but the TBI was the thing that really hit me in my head and emotionally. So, but 2 years of recovery, speech therapy, cognitive therapy, physical therapy, vertigo therapy, surgeries they ended up taking out part of my clavicle because the way it was fractured, it wasn't repairable. And then had to have another shoulder surgery after that. So, but, that's kind of the thing that I think in some of the moments of really deep depression, thinking, I've got to have a purpose for my life. And that's where Bike Club came.
Yeah.
So.
and there's so much, just looking back and, listening to your story up until this point, if you weren't an endurance athlete, maybe it could have gone different, right? Because you've already endured all the stuff on the bike anyway. And obviously it's a lot worse when you're in rehab and you're going through not just physical body, but mentally rehabbing and cognitive stuff as well. Like that's a lot of stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
But you've had, years and years of like dealing with suck on a bike and in a pool, right? So you're like, I can get through this. It's just transitioning that into something else. That's so that thing that you were now striving for and going towards was then Bike Club. Yeah.
Well, the thing that in 2018, there were about 5 dudes and me that just started, we had this idea of, let's see if we can get some kids interested in mountain biking. And we started this thing on Tuesday nights, and we called it Flyers because Tulsa had a competitive cycling group called Flyers. And we thought, we'll just kind of call it Flyers OKC. And we met at Bluff Creek every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. We had like 30 and 40 kids come out every week. And we were like, you guys, this has got momentum and it's meaningful. And look what is happening with this. So we got together and we formed our nonprofit called Cycles for Life. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. And we wrote a grant to Cox Communications and received that and started our first school. And that was Del City Middle School. And that was rolling. It was doing, initially the first school, first program, doing great. And then after I had my accident, that was kind of when that sort of thing came where I literally was just, my orthopedic surgeon was James Bond. Seriously, that's his name. Was so intuitive and encouraging. He said, Alyssa, you're an endorphin junkie. You've got to find ways to get your endorphins. And he said, get on that bike on your trainer, because I lost 90% of the use of my left arm. So there really wasn't much outdoor cycling that was possible. Plus, I had such severe vertigo that I didn't know if I'd ever drive a car or ride a bike again. Because if that vertigo hit, that would be a sad situation. But so I've got my arm tacked down. I'm on a step stool getting onto my bike, the trainer, and I'm just like, what am I going to do with my life? I have lost everything. But here I am on this trainer just trying to find some endorphins to get me out of this depression, And I swear I heard a voice that said, you will do Bike Club. And I was like, okay, alrighty then, And I think that was the moment of just, I didn't even say, let me think about it. It's like, okay, we've already got Bike Club rolling. Let's make it, something bigger and better and more meaningful for more students. And I said, you can take tragedy and tragic events and let it take you. You can give up, you know, or you can take everything you know and everything you have and just make it into something beautiful. And that's what I think Bike Club did. And we, Alyssa and Bike Club, and this kind of symbiosis have both grown and, you know, found meaning and purpose, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? And then obviously it's, you know, it's away and off to the races at that point. Like you've got a goal to work towards, you've got something to wake up for every morning. Yeah. You know, and then also you want to be riding your bike with these kids.
Yes.
Right. So you've got that part of you. And obviously if you don't have the use of any of your arms or your left arm at the time, like you can't riding a bike's pretty hard, you know, using one arm. Right. So thankfully you have a trainer and, you know, the trainers to jump on and just keep the legs moving and, you know, just build up the core muscles just standing up, you know, sitting up straight, riding a bike.
Right. And swimming was done too, you know, because, you know, it's difficult to swim with one arm. And so, but, you know, like I said, 2 years of recovery, 2 years of surgeries and physical therapy and that sort of thing. And, you know, I got that
good range
back.
of motion. Yeah. And you can get back on a bike.
Yeah. Back on a bike.
Yeah. But no swimming, just the bike.
I've swum a few times. And one of my girlfriends that was on that national women's team, she's like, I want to see you back in the water. She's like, this is just where you belong. You grew up here in the water. And she goes, and so I've been down to visit her a few times in Austin, and she goes, we're going swimming. And, you know, just that muscle memory comes back from so many years of that. And I was able to swim in Lake Travis and Barton Springs, which were both amazing. So
yeah. Barton Springs is a pretty special place.
It's very, if you've ever been there, then you know.
Well, I think I was there. We popped over from ACL one day just to pop in and get wet and cool down and then go back to a music festival.
Yeah.
So that's my experience of Barton Springs. It's not probably the same as your experience of actually swimming, but yeah, it is a beautiful place for sure. So I guess from that point, then Bike Club is just your focus, your love and your passion.
It
and that's,
is.
you know, so where does it go from there?
You know, just kind of backing up a little bit, you know, I just, like I said, that day when I heard that voice or whatever, and I just said, okay, I'm committed. I'm going to do this. I really went out and started knocking on doors and calling people and saying, I have this program that I believe is going to be life-changing and successful. And a friend of mine, Mims Talton, who owns Phlogistics, gave us our first big check, and that bought the bikes for our second school, which was Nichols Hills Elementary School. And all of our schools are Title I schools, and Nichols Hills Elementary School is a Title I school, which I think a lot of people are like, what? You know, but come see our program there and come see the diversity in our students, and you can see that people are not throwing cash out the window in the carpool line. And then COVID hit. I mean, that was a little bit, those are some hurdles to navigate. How are we going to convene with 20 kiddos when we're supposed to socially distance and all that? And we split the program into 2 different days, and everybody wore masks, and we had hand sanitizer and all this stuff. And fortunately, we were outside, you know, which was the best place to be in that situation. So my idea of adding the third school the third year was kind of, you know, it didn't happen. But then I knew I wanted a school in East Side Oklahoma City, and I got in touch with Michelle Lewis at Thelma Parks at the time, and there it went. We got Thelma Parks. And then this most recent year, Joshua Vaught, he runs the Spokies bike program in Oklahoma City, said he would like to have a program at Eugene Field, and there went Eugene Field, and we funded already, bought the bikes and the container, and we have the facilitator for Fillmore. That's a South Side school. So now we have an East and Middle and a kind of a North and then a South. And I wrote so many grants last week over spring break, and fingers crossed that we're able to get those, and we'll add maybe FD Moon as another middle school program. And, you know, I just would love for Oklahoma City Public Schools to see the value of this program as a whole. And This has been my passion. This is, I feel like, my calling, and I love this program with every ounce of my being. I want to be there every week at every bike club to ride with every kid, and they're Coach Alyssa, and we're just still in this stage of growing. I have been the volunteer leader of this program since its inception, and I'm looking for one of these grants that I wrote to be able to hire a program director. And when we get to that point, you're kind of in what do you do when your volunteers don't show up? Fire them?
Right.
So in order for an organization to have durability, you've got to have paid staff. That's the accountability that's necessary. And so if a couple of these grants come through for paid staff, I think that's going to give us some, a stronger foundation, and let us really expand and move forward. And, going back to, the first, we were talking about Bobby. Well, Bobby and I had a conversation. He goes, Stillwater, we're ready for Bike Club. And I would love to see Bike Club in Edmond, Stillwater, Moore, Guthrie, Hobart, Medicine Park, Lawton, whatever, all throughout the state, getting more kids on bikes and such. And Bike Club actually started in Tulsa with Jason Wharton and Mike Wozniak. And those two gentlemen have done, to say, it would be an understatement to say they've done an outstanding job with their program. But they also have the support of Tulsa Public Schools. Tulsa Public Schools said, we see what's happening here. We want this. We want it in every school, and we're going to help you. So they've got that. And we just haven't had that with Oklahoma City Public Schools yet.
Yeah, definitely. And so what does it look like for the kids then? So I know you mentioned buying all the bikes and having a container and a facility. Like, what does it look like when, they meet Coach Alyssa and they go for a ride? What is that whole process like?
You mentioned that. I'll just touch a little bit on that. We have, our initial kind of progress that we establish at a school. We buy a storage container, and that's a one and done. And it's about $20,000 ish just to start the school and fund it for the first year. But that includes the fleet of bikes and the storage container. And the storage container is a one and done. Never have to buy that again. The fleet of bikes we buy stays at the school for 5 years. And we buy helmets every year, we buy safety vests, we buy water bottles, and we buy earned bikes. And I haven't touched on that, but, every year it's just like we have this process of giving out invitations to every fourth grade student in Oklahoma City Public Schools. That's the top grade level. And we wanted this to be like a carrot. So you choose the top grade level. And then the third graders are like, oh, I want to be in Bike Club. What do I have to do? Well, you have to keep your attendance, behavior, and coursework in check to stay in the program or be invited into the program even. So we have, in the schools where we've been more established, we have like 60 applications for 20 spots. And it's just like so tough. But when we go through the process of choosing the kiddos, the teachers are really an integral part of it, want it, need it, and deserve it. So we lay out all the invitations by which class, and we try to have equal number from each class, boy, girl, boy, equal number girls and boys, and then we look at diversity. And that really in Oklahoma City Public Schools, it's pretty easy to have that diversity. Racially, socioeconomically, and to some degree. So first day, the kiddos come out, once they send, you've been chosen for Bike Club, here's your full-on waiver, media release, et cetera, they bring those back. They come out, first day is, I introduce myself, but most of them have seen me at the schools, and they're like, oh, it's Coach Alyssa, my big fan club of fourth graders, which is the best. And the first thing they get is a helmet. Here's your first thing that you have received from Bike Club is your very own helmet. And then we just go through we have an 8-week curriculum that sometimes takes 12 weeks to get through. First lesson is, how do you wear a helmet properly? And every one of these kiddos can tell you 1 to 2 fingers above your eyebrows and the bottom of the helmet. You want a Y on each side. You want 1 to 2 fingers into the chin strap, and then you use the ratchet to make it secure on your head. And what to wear and not to wear on the bike. Wear bright colors. Make sure your shoes are tied. Don't have dangling items, whether it's, a sweatshirt or backpack or anything, and, be secure with your handlebars. Don't try to ride with an icy or something, especially initially. So first lesson, second lesson is just starting and stopping. We have 20% each year of the kiddos that come to Bike Club have never been on a bike or don't know how to ride a bike. And that's 4th grade or sometimes even 6th grade. At our Del City Middle School, we had a pretty substantial number, a couple of years of kids that didn't know how to ride a bike. So opportunities are endless in Bike Club, and it's way more than just riding a bike. But that's their first opportunity, is learn to ride a bike. Yeah. And then when we see the confidence that comes from these kiddos, they're learning to ride, they're climbing, maybe the first time they see a hill, it's very daunting. They may have had to get off and walk. Next time they make it up, I'm like, that confidence spills over into so many other areas. And, the requirement to keep attendance, behavior, and coursework, when there's an issue, I go up to the school and we have a problem-solving session. And some of the teachers initially in the past have said, you're out of Bike Club. And I'm like, oh, can we just have a chat, and let's see if we can have some motivation to do better and be better. And it always works out that way when they see that somebody really cares and they don't want to miss out on Bike Club. Yeah.
Well, it's also the teacher in you too, right? Mm-hmm. Like that'll, what you mentioned earlier about being a teacher and having that side of you as well, and caring, and just marrying just love for cycling and athletics to teaching, raising kids, and and it's heartbreaking when you see a kid who's 6th grade has never ridden a bike before, right?
Yes.
One of my earliest memories, and probably one of the funniest things that my parents will tell about me, at some birthdays and whatever, weddings, is that there's a picture of me on Christmas, right? And I got a bike for Christmas, and it was a red Fox or something like that, but it's training wheels on it, right? And I'm riding this, I'm sat on this bike, pedaling, not going anywhere because it's on training wheels, right? And I was not. I'd holding my hands on the brake, and I'm pedaling like crazy. Well, I put a 6-inch rubber kind of mark in my parents' carpet, right? So that is one of my first memories of getting a bike, But it's heartbreaking to know that either the kids didn't get a bike, or they just never grew up with the opportunity, or no kids go outside anymore. Well, that was part of it, right? Yeah. Growing up, I'm 32 years old. So growing up, we were let's go outside and run around. And, this was before PlayStations and stuff.
It's freedom, and it's so many things. And, we even have in our program a lot of parents that never learned to ride a bike. And that's something I thought, maybe one of these days we'll do kind of an extension and okay, moms and dads, well, let's have a 2 or 3 week weekend kind of a thing, or after work kind of a thing, and just help these parents learn to ride a bike. And that's another part of what we do in our program is I'll receive used bikes, gently used. And then we'll fix those bikes up and give those to family members. Because when that's one of the things with Bike Club, they have to keep, of course, attendance, behavior, coursework, ABCs is focused, but all the kiddos that complete the program, and we've never lost a kiddo. All the kiddos that complete the program earn a bike to take home. They get to go home with a brand new bike, helmet, pump, safety vest, and all that. But then when you give the kiddo a bike and a mom or a sibling or dad or something like that, that can change the dynamics of the family, and lends itself more to physical and mental well-being. So
and there's so much goes into that, right? Because even if whatever situation the parent is in, they don't want to jump on a bike that has a skinny seat. And I just think of my mum getting on a bike, right? And I remember the first bike that my mum got, and for my mum, her only thing that she wanted was the most comfortable seat she could find. And it was the most comfortable seat she could find, you know, and like, that was, you know, that's a real thing, isn't it? We don't think of that, you know, and kids definitely don't think of that. They just think, come on, Mum, Dad, let's go for a bike ride. You know, they don't think of, you know, the parents thinking, no, we don't have a bike, or what, you know, there's so many things that goes into it. So. Yeah,
and these kiddos are they learn to navigate their community by bike, and they learn to communicate on the bike, you know, and navigate safely. And they learn that a bike is a transportation as well as it is, you know, this avenue for mental and physical well-being, you know, and so much more. So, yeah.
Yeah, so many. The only bone I've ever broken in my body is because I fell off my bike. Because I was trying to jump it, like most kids were trying to do stupid stuff. So you mentioned not having Oklahoma City Public Schools involved yet. That, I guess, is the future goal and where we're going. And once you get that, then it's just, because obviously it all comes down to funding and money and access.
It does. And, you know, additionally, as I have this is our 5th year, been the driving force, I would say, and this is just my passion, you know, it really, really is in my core. I'm still teaching. I after my accident, you know, I couldn't go back to coaching, and my personal training clients and such had long moved on. So it came to a point where I was like, I got to do something, you know, like not only just to have a purpose, but to have income. And so I got a job teaching at a virtual school. And that flexibility allows me to kind of like smush all of my teaching responsibilities into the early part of the day, go do Bike Club, and then I continue in the evenings with a lot of my families that are working families, and I can schedule conferences and meetings at 6 p.m. or whatever I need to, and even on the weekends, you know. So I kind of really juggle 2 full-time jobs. One pays and one feeds my soul. I guess they both have purpose. Yeah. That's brilliant. But as we expand, you know, I want to see every school in Oklahoma City, public schools, have this opportunity. And that really is just a matter of Oklahoma City Public Schools saying, we believe in this program, we want to help support it. But in the meantime, you know, Edmond has shown interest, Norman has shown interest, and even Stillwater. And I wouldn't be opposed to saying, well, they're eager, let's go with Edmond. And, you know, I think that I haven't talked to Bobby about this, but I thought, hey, maybe at Mid-South next year there could be an optional, you know, $10 or $20 donation, check the box, to provide funding for a bike club to start in this city of Stillwater. And I think that people in that are, you know, Mid-South kind of people would be like, sure, I'll throw $10 for getting more kids on bikes. And then that would just be the beginning of a Stillwater Bike Club, you know. So, but yeah, I would love to see this in every Oklahoma City public school, you know. So that.
And you mentioned you said 20 kids. Mm-hmm. Is there a reason it's just 20?
20 is manageable. Okay,
for one person to do, or 2 volunteers.
Yeah, we have an amazing volunteer coordinator, Jasmine Gaddy, and so we have a facilitator, ideally at each school, an employee of the school, and a kind of a tie-in, but Nichols Hills Elementary doesn't really operate that way, or Thelma Park, so I'm kind of that facilitator as well. But that we just need volunteers enough at each school. And so I'm, you know, having the teaching background in classroom management, I know you just get, like, you don't say, is everybody ready? Because which kid is going to say, oh, no, I'm not? You ask, who needs 2 more minutes? And then you've got a hand rest, because the way you frame that question is more inviting, and I'm not the only one who's going to be like shouting out, I'm not ready, you know. So, and just simple things like to get their attention when they're and I just yell, Bike Club rocks, and then they all come back, Bike Club rolls, and just simple things like, and in a very calm, like almost higher than a whisper, I'll just say, if you can hear me, raise your hand straight up over your head. If you can hear me, put your hand on top of your helmets. And they all start doing this, and it gets more quiet and more quiet. And then I'll finally say, if you see someone that doesn't have their hand on their helmet, would you please tap them so they know I'm trying to get the attention? And then it's just, there we go. Instead of, hey, you guys, listen up. Now listen up. Now listen. I mean, that just falls on whatever.
They've had that their entire schooling career.
So not to, this is just kind of stating the obvious for any teacher out there, but 20 students is a big group. This year at Nichols Hills Elementary, we have 26, and it is a big group. Every time you add 5 more kiddos, it's big, big, big. So a volunteer, we have their lead volunteer or facilitator, and if we can have 4 volunteers at each program, 5 is not too many. That offers, when we ride outside, we have a lead, we have a flank, and a sweep. And then the flanks kind of rotate up as we go through intersections to come up when the light is ready to turn green or the stop sign or whatever, and they'll position themselves in the intersection and kind of, sort of hopefully, successfully direct traffic. And, the light may turn yellow, and we've got 3 more kiddos that are coming up, and they're like, in the intersection, we move through like a bus. The bus doesn't get halfway through the intersection and then the back of the bus waits. So, there have been times where we just have 2 volunteers, and it's like, we got to make sure everybody sticks together. But when we have that many volunteers, the group oftentimes will split because there are more, seasoned cyclists even in this very young age. But then that turns into a lead and a sweep and a lead and a sweep. And then, that works itself as well. So, but, the kiddos have so many opportunities to see parks, local places of interest, museums, restaurants, and just these opportunities connecting with police and fire departments and in their community is so enriching and empowering, in so many ways.
Yeah. What, stage of the curriculum are they out on the roads?
We don't go out on the road until we have 100% riders and that they know how to communicate with each other. So our progression of just, starting and stopping like a power pedal position. How many brakes do you have? What happens if you use that left brake hard independently? Not always a good thing. Right turn, left turn, slowing, stopping, hazards, car up, car back. They're all really important things to know when you're riding as a group. And so as they progress, we kind of set up cones, not really obstacle course as you would think in Tough Mudder kind of a thing, but they have to ride through cones. They have to make a sharp right turn, a U-turn left kind of a thing. And we'll put them one in front of the other, and they have to communicate that. And those 2, good job, you guys, next pair. Then we put them side by side. So now you have to learn that when you take a corner, the person on the outside can't cut in, the person on the inside can't swing out. You have to match that corner movement. So once we have them all go through the front and the back and the side by side, then we put them in groups of 4. And then if they can successfully go through the cones in the groups of 4, we do a group of 6, and then we practice on the school site as a group with all of our, slowing, stopping, right turn, left turn skills. And when I feel like we're ready for the road, then our first field trip is always to Sonic.
Oh, really?
And they love, brilliant. When are we going to Sonic? When are we going to Sonic? Yeah. So Sonic Inspire Brands specifically has been a huge supporter for us. And they offer gift cards and free wacky packs for the kids, free ice cream cones, cherry limeades and stuff. And it's just really a treat for us to go there. Yeah. And then the rest of the season is just, we've hit where we have, we can ride our bikes. 2 of our schools can ride to the river sports. Mm-hmm. So we've been there, and they'll carve out a private event for the kids to have the experience there. We'll go again in May when they open the surf machine for the kiddos. We can ride to the Harn Homestead, the Bombing Memorial Museum, Oklahoma Contemporary Art Space, Metropolitan Libraries, all the parks that are within riding distance, and they get to explore all these neighborhood parks. Additionally, we went to the Oklahoma Black History Museum and Performing Arts Center, which was really interesting and eye-opening for a lot of these kiddos. J.B. Williams is just, I mean, I was a rock star, in literally and figuratively, rap star, rock star, but welcomes the kids into Eastside Pizza House, and Nikki Nice came to visit, and we, during Black History Month, really talked about some of these really important figures, Dr. Dowd, Clara Looper, and then we rode to the Slaughter Mansion, which was magnificently interesting, and it was a haul. I mean, these kiddos are riding some big hills, so I spend quite a bit of time each week just looking at, what's an interesting place, what's an important Oklahoma place in terms of history or present, standing or whatever that we can ride to by bike.
Yeah.
So it's really, I mean, I love the field trips, hopefully. I mean, maybe more than the kiddos, but, definitely they get a broad spectrum of things,
Yeah, it's not just learning to ride a bike, right? Mm-hmm. It's like educational as well.
Yes.
Learning Oklahoma history and just part of, stuff that it might not be in a textbook, and you're getting the context from the people that are doing it, right?
Yeah.
They have a passion for that history, and, like you're meeting JB and Nikki Nice and all these people. Like that goes a long way for a, 4th, 5th, 6th grader, right?
Yeah, and you never know what's going to spark interest, and even if it's an interest that's temporary and it's from a young age, but it still is something that sparks some interest, like, going to the fire department, fire station number 16, these gentlemen were beyond outstanding. It's a ladder truck station, so they brought their ladder truck out, put it all the way up. One of the firefighters climbed all the way up and all the way down, and they let the kids hold the hose and spray it. And we had timed one of the firefighters putting all his gear on, but they give him important fire safety lessons, and these kids, that could be a spark. It's like, that was so cool. Yeah. We'll go visit an oil and gas company and talk to some of their engineers, and to some of them it's kind of like, but that could be a spark in interest even, in terms of, I remember when we went to go visit Phlogistics, and that was really interesting, and it, makes them want to learn or something more about that. But who knows, years down the line, it's like, that's where that interest came,
Right. Yeah, because it's in the subconscious, right?
Yeah.
You don't think about it, and then it comes up, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is camera dies, obviously. We're almost done.
Yeah, but it's an exposure to arts too, through Oklahoma Contemporary Art Space, and the bombing memorial is a really important thing.
They
as
still
well.
have the cafe at the Oklahoma Contemporary? Because it's like, it was when I don't know, I haven't been there for a while, but the cafe they've had or have is incredible.
I'm thinking, okay, so there's the Oklahoma Museum or
this
whatever.
Is the giant new metal building.
Yeah,
right? It has
yeah,
the car
yeah.
upside down on it. Or
and
whatever.
you know what? I've never been to the cafe. Oh wait, there
Maybe
is a cafe
closed.
in there.
It's so good.
But it might have taken a back seat with COVID and kind of coming back to life and that sort of thing. But usually when we go there with field trips, we're just focused on, focused on the lecture or the art at hand, and stuff.
It's super awesome, super exciting. I'm glad that you have this avenue to focus things on, right?
Yeah.
After the whole crash and everything, and you're probably the things that are going through your mind and the doubts of, am I ever going to get up on am I ever going to walk or run again, right? Am I ever going to get up on a bike again? Like, this real things, and like you said, am I ever going to drive again? And the vertigo, like it's, we don't realize how, I guess, fortunate we are and grateful we are to have the things that we have.
Yeah.
Even just basic things like walking or the use of your left arm and all this stuff. And now you've got this to really put, your energy into, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure every single bike club you get a kid that's like, and like you see the kid's reaction, and like they don't have to say anything to you, but you see the way they feel and look and express themselves, and you're like, that's why I do this every day. Yeah. So
I don't really have to probably sell you on the mental wellness of
not at all.
Being outside and cycling. And goodness, just that part, that element is so important. We are still experiencing so much of I think a mental wellness crisis as just a species, right? Across the globe, and kids are the same. And when they can find a meaningful outlet, to moderate. Like, I'm angry, I just need to go blow off some steam, go get on your bike. I'm sad, I need to just kind of like find some rhythmic kind of movement or something, go get on your bike. You're happy, call a friend, you guys go ride. You can do biking. I mean, there are, in our program, this is something that may be obvious to so many, but not every kiddo has the desire, capacity, financially, with transportation or whatever, to play football, basketball, soccer, baseball. But our program meets at the school, so they don't have to have transportation to the program. And also, you can ride your bike forever, And again, like I said, happy, sad, angry, glad, by yourself, with friends, 90 or 9, you can ride a bike. I haven't had an invitation to play soccer or football in the last little bit from my friends, but I get a lot of invitations to ride a bike.
To go bike, yeah. And you see, like, even as an adult, right? You jump on the bike, you go out, you have a coffee somewhere, you ride around, grab some food, or hopefully it's something better than a gas station in the middle of nowhere, which is generally most of the cyclists' lunch,
exactly.
Isn't it? Like, what am I going to get? One of those little crusted old gas stations.
Yes.
What are they? Cinnamon rolls, right? Or like the donuts or whatever. I had Alan and Jennifer White on the podcast. Gravel Doc and Gravel Ginger, for those of you who know. Yeah. We just laughed like the whole time talking about cycling.
I love those two.
Getting into it and the things that they've gone through and how biking has helped them, and the mental side and just all of the stuff that cycling has done. Alan was a soccer player and got into biking, from a friend, and then he got Jenny into it and all that stuff. So yeah, it's does wonders. It
does. And I have to go back to when I was saying about the football, basketball, baseball, and that sort of thing. I'm a fan of all. Just get moving.
Yeah.
Move and be involved in something physical. And I love those sports for those kids that have that desire and that capability. And but for those that don't, we've got a really wide variety of kiddos. We have had a diagnosed schizophrenic kiddo on our roster. We have kids that have learning disabilities, ADHD, and the data that has been shown and proven that cycling really does have a cognitive effect on the brain. And so there's just so many amazing things that come from that. And, I just happened to settle into, the cycling world and the cycling avenue of it.
It's amazing how we look back at our lives and end up in the places that we do, right? And all the stuff that makes sense, when you see it, but today you're like, how did I get here? And then you look back, you're like, oh yeah, because of this, this, and this. For people listening, how can they get involved? How, if there's someone listening that thinks my company would love to be a part of this and sponsor it, like where do they go?
We have so many needs. Like I said, financial needs are there because you have to have bikes, you have to have a storage container, helmets, etc., to run the program. And we are absolutely open to any kind of sponsorship. We had a realty company, McGraw, that sponsored us for a while and put their name on the safety vests and that sort of thing. So obviously financial sponsorship of any kind. I know that people sometimes have matching giving through their corporations. So if you're looking for an avenue to direct your taxable giving or whatever, we are a 501c3. We have volunteer opportunities that are actually, wheels on the ground with the kiddos on the riding with the program. But we have needs for volunteer, coordinator, assistance, logistics, special events, and just a multitude of other things, moving bikes, bike maintenance, that sort of thing. So our volunteer needs go way beyond just actually at the program. And, just even word of mouth, spreading the good news about what Bike Club is doing. So, if you like what Bike Club is doing, get involved in some way, either supporting financially, supporting volunteering, or anything like that.
Yeah. And website and all that stuff I can link down below.
Our bike club is, our website is, www.bikeclubokc.com. And Instagram is probably where we're most active, and it really is I think it's a good representation of the beautiful rainbow skin tones we have in our program, and the successes and the smiles and all the fun stuff. So Instagram is Bike Club OKC. So
And then people want to follow you. What's your Instagram?
Alyssa 24/7.
Okay.
Yeah, my Instagram is going to be biking.
It's a very fitting name.
That's my birthday is July 24th, and my daughter is always like, "Mom, you are 24/7."
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming down. Thanks so much for taking an hour of your day to share some stories, share your story, how you get into Bike Club, and kind of shed some light on this project that you have.
Yes.
Really appreciate it. And for people listening, I'll put the link to the website and both Instagrams in the description. You should go there right now and follow Bike Club OKC and Alyssa, and then see how you can get involved, even if it is just volunteering, riding around.
Excellent. Yes. This was delightful. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. And I might be riding Mid-South next year. We'll see. Bobby is trying to convince me to ride at some point. So we'll see. I got to get a bike first. So stay tuned. But thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.